Hey y'all, in for H&H here, and you're looking at the Veritium HF clock, and this particular model is called the ESP unit. And some of you have this unit. This one was gifted to me by November 4 Charlie Mike Echo a little over a year ago, and it's already, okay, in a sense, obsolete, but I want to show you something that I use mine for because, well, it can still serve you well. Now, what do I mean by obsolete? It can no longer have any of the updates for HamClock. So the HF clock device from Veritium runs HamClock software. HamClock software, and that's what you're seeing on the screen up there. So these units, my understanding is that they are some surplus devices that were used in the medical industry, and so the processing unit in there is older and therefore hamstrung. Sorry about that. To try to run the new software, therefore, you know, there's some functions that it can't do anymore. So what they did last year when they put out version 3.10, and if you look right up there above where it says UTC, let me zoom in. I'll try to put it in the middle of the screen for you there. Right above here where it tells you that the clock is reading UTC, it says VER version 3.10. So they announced that version 3.10 would be the last version that would run on this unit. And since they push their updates, you know, you don't have to do anything. It's just, it'll never get an update. It'll never, you know, on the HamClock software, if you're familiar with it, the version turns red, indicating there's an update available, and you just click on it and it'll update. And if you don't do that, basically, if you turn it off and turn it back on again, when it starts up, it'll tell you there's an update. So what do I do with this thing now that it's stuck at version 3.10? Absolutely, you can still use it. What I've done with mine is I've tasked it to do things that I know it can still do, which is solar data, and even the maximum usable frequency map here. And in fact, as I'm shooting this, 10-meter propagation is quite good over here in Europe, Africa, and South America. So because if you look down here, the decoder ring, as I call it, over here where it starts getting into the reddish orange here, these are up near 30 megahertz. So this is your 10-meter band areas that have propagation. So I leave it on that, the MUF map. And then I have my solar data up here. This is space weather. You know, you tap the top of these panels and you can choose what you want to display. I've got this panel set for moon and SDO, that's your solar data. And then I've got this panel, well, look at it right now, sunspot number. Okay, now, solar flux index and sunspot number are two good things to watch. The higher those are, the better. In fact, those are good numbers right now. Really, above 100 is good. 200 or higher is, you know, really just quite good. So, you know, I can see the trend here too. This is the last 30 days looking back. So there was a really, wow, it got close to 300 there, the sunspot number at one point. That's just incredible. So I'll click here in the top and show you the other thing. Oh, it's busy regenerating a map, so bear with it a moment. Over here though, SDO, I've got it cycling. You'll see it start to blink. The square, the white square will start to blink, and it'll switch over and show the moon data. Now, even this right here, you see this is taking a little bit of a time to regenerate. It's because the ESP unit has, oh, this one's blinking now. The ESP unit has a slow processor. But here's what I'm displaying in the middle pane. I've got Aurora, the BZBT index, which that one and Aurora kind of work together if you think of it this way. Negative BZBT, okay, when that goes, you see over here in the bottom right, it says BZ negative, or no, sorry, 0.4. You don't want that going negative. Bad for us. But more negative is also meaning that you've got a higher chance of Aurora, and the Aurora You know, last year we had an aurora. You could see them from North Georgia, and the number was got to 100%. So, and it'll give you, it'll cycle through all of these. It'll switch from sunspot number in a minute to something else. There's the moon now showing up, and I can tell that we got a little more than a half moon there. Solar flux index 191, X-ray C 7.2. That's getting close to an M, medium flare. You don't want to really see M, and you especially don't want to see X up here. Planetary K 1.3. That's okay. Lower is better. And again, on the BZ, we want positive, and especially positive 2 or higher is good. You get up to positive 10 or 20, that's really good. All right, see, now this center pane has switched over, and that's X-ray data, C7.2. And see, over here is just the number, but here it's showing you the trend. Now, this pane here, I've got tasked to show my DE weather, okay? Again, you tap up there, you choose what it is, DE for me. You know, in Morse code, we'll say dit, which is from, short for from in CW. Means where I am. So DE weather is my weather. DX weather is whoever I happen to click on, or where I've clicked. Like I've got my little green dot down here in the lower tip of Australia. That's where I tapped on the screen. And that's 11,097 miles. I want to talk to somebody there someday that'll break my distance record. And I set my distance record in the first 2 weeks that I was a general class operator back in 1982. So it's been a while. But anyway, back to, I'm just using this to do things that I don't have to interact with it for. For example, it can display the VOACAP, the Voice of America coverage analysis program, but you can't interact with it anymore. Before we could tap a call sign, and it would tell you down here, how far away, where to aim your beam, things like that. And this processor can't handle that task anymore. But I just wanted you to know it still has a purpose. And let me point out too, if you're unsure which this unit is, Veritium HF clock, and it's the ESP unit. It has a wooden box, and then inside is this little, once was a medical monitor, I believe is what I was told. Now, you think, well, why keep it around if it can't do everything? Well, because my other HamClock over here, and you can run HamClock on a PC if you want to use Ubuntu. You can download that. In my video descriptions, I always put some information about how to get to that, to install it on a PC. And it doesn't cost you anything, at least last time I looked. But this one here is actually running on my web browser. Let me show you the address. innovato.local:8081/live.html. Okay, so over here I have a monitor plugged into an Innovato Quadra. I think I paid $60 for it with some accessories. And let me show you where that unit is in case you haven't watched my entire HamClock series. There it is back there with the blue light on. So it's displaying to this monitor, but it's also on my network. So I can display it over here again, just a duplicate, and I can even control it from here with my mouse from my PC. So, there you go, right there, the mouse. It's just a little bit easier. I mean, you can hook a mouse up to the unit over there too. I do have one connected over there. But you notice that this one is tasked with different things. I'm showing the VOACAP screen right there. And I've got DX cluster, and on the air, which I have set to be SOTA right now. You can do SOTA, POTA, Worldwide Flora, all three. It'll just cycle through them, or one at a time. I've got it just on SOTA right now. And then there's space weather again. There were some changes in space weather since the ESP units were locked down at version 3.1. And that is the space weather now decides what 4 criteria to show up there. In other words, it's going by what is most affecting space weather at the moment. And whereas, so you see up there, sunspot number 219, X-ray C, 7.2, etc. Over here, solar flux index is top right, and X-rays number 2. So, but those are locked in. Those don't change. Those are the only 4 you're ever going to see there, which is fine. Those are, in my opinion, 4 very important ones. But you can see over here, I can interact with this one. I can click, say, I wonder if I can work this guy. And you'll see a circle showing, when I hover over him, showing where he is. I wonder what my chances are to work this guy. Okay, so I click. And those of you who've been watching my HamClock series, you've seen this in detail. But now VoaCap is telling me, okay, that was 10 meter band, and it's good, and it's green. I should be able to work him. You know, yellow, maybe. Red, maybe not. Black, probably not. That's what the boxes mean over there. So, you know, this is interactive because this is running the latest software, and the processor is fast enough to handle it. So now Innovato announced in December they were going out of business, and you wouldn't be able to get that Innovato Quadra unit I showed you there. But then they came back, and what's going on is the owner is very, very ill, but his family's trying to keep things going from what I understand. Now Veritium, who makes this unit, Veritium, V-E-R-I-T-I-U-M, they have a Raspberry Pi unit that's similar to the Innovato Quadra, a little standalone box. It's fast, and I know some guys that are running that one, and they have no problem at all running the software on it. Last time I looked, I think that unit was $300, but it has no trouble running the latest software from HamClock. So if you want, if you want to pursue that, now, if you want to, if you're into it, you can install on a Raspberry Pi. If you have one, you can install on a PC using Ubuntu to emulate Linux. So you got a lot of options in order to acquire a HamClock. And again, as long as Innovato stays in business, I think their unit has been selling for about $60, and you just supply a mouse and a monitor. But I wanted you to know, if you happen to have one of these, don't throw it out. You don't have to interact with it. I have it set to show my solar data and cycle through the various criteria, and also I have it set to show the maximum usable frequency map, so I can glance over that when I want that kind of data. Or over here, see, I can even have it set on the terrain map, a different map. I can make that one, of course, do muff map, but I don't need to because I can glance over at this Veritium ESP unit, and I can see the muff map there. Okay, hey, I hope you found the video helpful and informative. I hate to see things thrown away, so, I wanted you to know that this thing still has a lease on life if you set it up to do, again, what I call more or less a static display, although it is really not static. It's showing you real-time data, and it's even rotating, we call it, the panes up here. These two, I've got it, there it's showing the moon again. So it's still very useful. All right. Hey, please do me a favor. I want to acknowledge 5 of my Patreon team members. This channel functions strictly off donations because I don't do any alignment with a manufacturer. They would try to bridle me, and they wouldn't want me to tell you when I see a flaw. They wouldn't want me to do comparisons between, say, this radio, that radio. So I don't do any alliances with a manufacturer. But in order for me to do that, so that I can bring you the raw truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I have to have private support. And without them, you wouldn't have seen this video, or, well, there's a little over 700 total. They wouldn't have been available to you because I was going broke trying to do this in 2020, and that's when I discovered the Patreon option for people to be able to privately donate to fund the channel. So I would like to acknowledge 5 of the ones I call long haulers. They invest yearly, and I've got some that have been investing now for over 4 years. And there are 3 different investment tiers. They're donations, really. And each tier, they get more perks. They get access to more behind-the-scenes information. So I want to acknowledge 5 of them right now. Thanks again. 73 from N4HNH.